thank you. I rise today for the final time as a United States Senator with a heart full of gratitude. When I was growing up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, my mother, Ellen Harding Casey, would often say to my brothers and sisters and me, quote, "Count your blessings. Count your blessings." She would say that over and over again. So today, I seek to do so here on the floor of the United States Senate. I begin with an expression of deep, abiding gratitude to the people of Pennsylvania who conferred upon me the honor of serving them in 3 statewide public offices for 28 consecutive years, first as Auditor General, then as State Treasurer, and for the last 18 years as United States Senator. It's been a privilege to have served our Commonwealth, to have served the people of our Commonwealth. Now for 39 and a half years, I've been blessed by the unconditional love and unfailing support of my wife, Therese, the oldest daughter of John and Nancy Fapiano. Every day that I've been a public official, Therese has been the foundation of our family. Her love for me and our daughters has been boundless and constant. I want to thank each of our 4 daughters who are with us today. And for me, just saying their names is like a prayer of thanksgiving. Elise, Caroline, Julia, and Marina. They, like Therese, sacrificed so much while I was in public office. I'm so proud of the accomplished young women they have become. Elise and our son-in-law Michael brought us the gift of our grandsons, Max, age 4, and Aiden, a 2-year-old, each of whom bring so much joy to our lives. And I'm so grateful that my brothers and sisters, their spouses, and Teresa's sisters and their spouses, and so many of my nieces and nephews are with us today, and so many friends from all across our Commonwealth. I remember today my late parents, Bob and Ellen Casey, who gave me and my siblings life and love, as well as their shining examples of treating every person that we meet with respect. My father's work as a public official was a testament to the inscription on the Finance Building in Harrisburg, where he once worked and I worked as well. This inscription has also guided my work all these years. Here's what it says, quote, "All public service is a trust given in faith and accepted in honor." The Senate is a place where senators are accorded most of the attention. Not breaking news there. Today, I want to thank, of course, the men and women who don't get the headlines, the men and women who work behind the scenes every day, the staff of the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms and doorkeeper, who keep the business of the Senate running seamlessly every day, people like Delta Whitfield, Racy Leak, Rocketta Jackson, and Tim O'Neill, just to name a few, who go out of their way to make everyone feel like a VIP. The staff at Restaurant Associates, who cater and staff our special events on campus and who serve senators, staff, and visitors to our Capitol with a smile in our cafeterias. The men and women of the architect of the Capitol and Senate Superintendent, who clean up the Capitol buildings and keep the facilities immaculate every day, even in this centuries-old building. And of course, the Capitol police officers. How can we even begin to thank them for their service? Police officers who keep us and our complex safe every day. Many of you will never get the commendation or credit that you deserve, but the work you do is vital and is a great service to our nation. Of course, I'll miss working with senators on both sides of the aisle, many of whom are here today with us. I'm grateful for lasting friendships like Senator Brown on my right, Senator Klobuchar on my left. We have a lot of stories, which I won't share today. But I'm so grateful for their friendship. And all of my 2006 classmates, and so many others in different classes who came in after us and before us. So many senators who serve with distinction. I've been honored to serve these past 2 years with my friend and Pennsylvania colleague, Senator Fetterman. Honored he's with us today again. Majority Leader Schumer and the late Senator Harry Reid. I want to thank them for encouraging me to run for the Senate way back in 2005. I want to thank Chuck for his leadership and our friendship. I've been blessed to have been served by an exceptional staff every single day that I've been in the United States Senate. From my former Chief of Staff, Jim Brown, and former Legislative Director, Dick Spiegelman, to my current Chief of Staff, Kristen Gentile, who's right over here, and our Legislative Director, Derek Miller, who's right between those columns there, next to former Senator Harkin. I've been blessed by their help all these years, and I'm also grateful to have had help in the state as well. My current state director, Teresa Dennis, has served with me every year that I've been a public official. These last few years were especially challenging for our office, and I know many others, with the pandemic and so much else. We had the pandemic, and then not too long after that, we're in a long, difficult election cycle. I was blessed to have Kristen Gentile, my Chief of Staff, whose leadership and hard work guided our staff through difficult and demanding times. She led with grace, grit, and humor, and I'm grateful for her service, her public service here in the Senate. But I want to thank each and every single person who served on my Senate staff from January the 3rd, 2007 to today. They've worked tirelessly every day to help the people of Pennsylvania. So I want to thank our staff who are on both corners of the room here, on the left and the right, both present and past, and I know some others in the galleries. So grateful for their work. Without objection, Madam President, I ask consent to enter the names of all my past and current staff, both in my office and on the Aging Committee, into the record so they can be recognized for their hard work and exemplary public service for the people of Pennsylvania and our nation.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. I'm proud of the work we've done together on behalf of the people of Pennsylvania to fight for our children, our seniors, people with disabilities, our veterans, and our workers. In my 18 years in the Senate, I've worked to pass many laws focused on improving the lives of everyday Americans. Allow me to give you some examples. One of my proudest accomplishments is the Stephen Beck Jr. Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, the so-called ABLE Act, which turned 10 years old this month. Before ABLE, people with disabilities could not save more than $2,000 without risking access to their federal benefits, forcing many people with disabilities into a permanent state of poverty. I worked with Senator Richard Burr to pass the ABLE Act in 2014 so that people with disabilities can save for their futures. There are almost 190,000 ABLE account holders across the nation who've already saved over $2 billion. Brenda Dare is one of those, an ABLE account holder from Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. She says that ABLE, quote, gives us a way to be fully functional citizens who are able to save and prepare for their futures. Her ABLE account allows Brenda to own her own home and to raise her niece full time. In building on the success of the program, starting in 2026, people who acquired their disability before the age of 46 will be able to open ABLE accounts, expanding eligibility to 6 million more Americans, including more than 1 million veterans. In 2013, I passed the Campus Save Act to put greater responsibility on colleges and universities to prevent sexual assault on college campuses. This was important legislation to make sure students understood their rights and protections on campus. It has made college campuses safer in the decades since its passage. The Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, passed 2 years ago this month, provides pregnant women with, quote, reasonable accommodations, unquote, to work and to maintain a healthy pregnancy as they continue to do their work. Senator Bill Cassidy worked with me to pass this bill, and I'm grateful for his help. Modeled after the Americans with Disabilities Act, this legislation ensures that pregnant women can go to their employer and ask for reasonable accommodations, simple things like a stool to sit on, or a water bottle, or bathroom break, and other accommodations, just as people with disabilities have been able to ask for accommodations of other kinds for the past 3 decades in their workplaces. A number of years ago, as a member of the Senate Agriculture Committee, I was proud to author a law that has dramatically improved our schools and our children's nutrition. That provision, modeled after a Philadelphia pilot program, allowed high-poverty schools to offer school lunch and breakfast free of charge. Nearly 68% of American school districts now offer free meals under this option, and 20 million children attend schools offering universal free meals. That's 10 times the number of children as in 2010. Captain Victor Saraceni was a Bucks County resident and a United Airlines pilot killed in the terrorist attacks of 9/11. His wife, Ellen Saraceni, turned her unimaginable grief into action, and she fought to pass legislation to make airline cockpits safer. I was honored to work alongside Ellen to pass 2 laws to make sure that new airplanes are built with a secondary barrier to the cockpit and to retrofit older planes. These laws will help prevent future terrorist attacks. We all know that global food insecurity around the world not only leaves millions of children starving and malnourished, but it also creates political instability. I worked with my Republican colleagues to authorize and then to reauthorize more than once the Global Food Security Act to combat food insecurity, create economic opportunity, and promote international stability. I also fought to keep our service members safe in Afghanistan by working to reduce the number of IEDs, those awful explosive devices. In the 2000s, IEDs were killing and wounding U.S. troops in Afghanistan at an alarming rate. Through legislation to stop the flow of ammonium nitrate used in IEDs, as well as pushing the Pentagon, by 2012, deaths by IEDs had dropped significantly. But passing legislation isn't the only measure of success in the Senate. I'm an extraordinarily proud senator of the work that was done by my Constituent Services team, currently led by Lindsey Martin, all of whom have some of the hardest jobs here in government, anywhere in the Capitol, and in our states as well. Over the course of my 3 terms in the Senate, they have closed almost 200,000 constituent cases. Let me give you just 4 examples. First, that number represents Pennsylvanians we helped get Social Security benefits that they were due but were not receiving. Second, a 94-year-old World War II veteran from Philadelphia for whom we secured updated discharge papers and back pay reflecting a promotion he had been denied because he was a black soldier. The first responder from Erie, we helped receive money that she was owed from the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund. And finally, the mother whose son was denied care by their insurance company for 2 months until our office reached out on their behalf, and so many more constituents across the state. Finally, I fought to deliver federal funding for Pennsylvania families and communities in all 67 counties. I worked to provide investments to lift up families during the pandemic, support public safety by delivering funding for police and fire departments, improve water and sewer systems, roads, bridges in small towns and rural areas, and support local nonprofits that protect the most vulnerable among us. In southwestern Pennsylvania, that economy of that corner of the state relies upon our waterways system. The Port of Pittsburgh and the region's locks and dams move essential commodities. Those waterways create jobs and they promote economic development. Without our waterways, the region's entire economy would come to a standstill, threatening some 200 100,000 jobs. Thanks to the infrastructure law and persistent work over many years to highlight just how vital these waterways are, I was able to secure nearly $1 billion to replace the Montgomery Locks and Dam in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, and invest in the broader waterway system. In 2016, during a phone call with county commissioners in southwestern Pennsylvania, one of the commissioners just started to scream into the phone. He said, "Senator, kids can't do their homework." And he made a point to me that I'll never forget. So I went to work, as we all did, on high-speed internet. I was able to deliver significant investments to expand high-speed internet to rural communities across our Commonwealth. Without high-speed internet, not only are school children adversely impacted, small businesses can't connect with their customers. Farmers can't fix their equipment when it breaks down in the field. But that's changing. Just last week, I was in Washington County, in the southwestern corner of our state, to highlight the expansion of high-speed internet for 9,000 residents and small businesses in rural communities, made possible by a public-private partnership that folks at the local level started, but it included $25 million from the American Rescue Plan legislation. Washington County is not alone. High-speed internet is being deployed all across the Commonwealth. As many of you know, Pennsylvania has a rich history of energy production. Our coal miners risked their health and their safety, and many lost their lives over generations to power the nation. Pennsylvania's energy workers, I would argue, are the best in the world, and they're also well equipped to lead us into the energy economy of the future. As the Senate worked to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, as many know, a bill to spur a new energy manufacturing renaissance, I made sure that Pennsylvania energy communities were first in line. In the bill, I secured an energy communities tax credit for investment in clean energy facilities in communities whose economies have relied upon coal, oil, or natural gas. These incentives are spurring investment all across Pennsylvania, from the Mineral Basin solar plant on an abandoned mine lands, in Clearfield County, to the expanded demand for Voith Hydro's production in York County. Mr. President, I want to wrap up with just some thoughts about what's ahead for the next Congress and the next number of Congresses, probably, with some of these challenges. I want to highlight some of the challenges that lie ahead for our nation. There are so many priorities we could talk about today, like combating climate change and gun violence and the opioid crisis, lowering costs for families, providing home and community-based services for seniors and people with disabilities, and there's so many more that I didn't mention. As many of you know, and you see it in your own communities, your own families, your own states, it's much more difficult to raise a family and provide long-term stability than it used to be. Pennsylvanians used to be able to work one job, often without a college degree, and provide for their families for decades. There's a big moment in 2025, a tax bill. I won't be here for it, but that tax debate will be a critical moment for American families. Congress will decide whether to help middle-class and low-income families, people striving to get to the middle class, or to continue what I would argue is a 40-year trend to provide substantial tax benefits to the largest corporations on the planet Earth and the wealthiest Americans. I hope that the Senate will act to help the middle class and those striving to get to the middle class. I urge as well the Senate to make the child tax credit, something that Senator Brown and Senator Bennett long ago introduced legislation on, to make that child tax credit, two words, fully refundable, rather than provide more corporate and high-income tax breaks. When that tax credit was made fully refundable in 2021, that one action changed the lives of so many children, reduced childhood poverty by 40%. I've long warned, as a United States Senator, that China is not just a competitor, it's an economic adversary, and that we must continue to confront China head on. I've often said that when China cheats, Pennsylvania loses jobs. I've worked for years to crack down on China's trade cheating, and to limit the risks of sending our national security technology and know-how to China. Senator Cornyn and I have been working for years to pass legislation to crack down on U.S. investments in China that would undermine our national security. And later this week, Congress will pass a version of that legislation in the continuing resolution to fund the government. We all know that a key to global competitiveness lies here at home. In order to compete globally, we must invest in our children. Inspired by Franklin Roosevelt's 4 freedoms, I introduced in early 2020 a set of ideas where I proposed five freedoms for America's children: the freedom to be healthy, the freedom to learn, the freedom to have economic security, the freedom to be safe from harm, and the freedom from hunger. If every American child was able to benefit from these 5 freedoms, they would have the opportunity to succeed in life. There are so many benefits to our nation as well: a higher skilled workforce if we invest in our kids, a greater GDP, a stronger national security, a healthier society if we invest in our children. Finally, Madam President, the Senate and the American people have to make a choice in the years ahead between dictators and democracy. We must continue to support, not just in the Senate and the House, but as Americans, continue to support the people of Ukraine and their consequential war with a murderous dictator, Vladimir Putin. Our nation has generously supported the Ukrainian military. We cannot stop. Abandoning them now undermines freedom-loving people all over the world. So, Madam President, you and others have been a patient audience, but I'd like to conclude with just some final thoughts. I want to go back to my mother. Inspired by my mother, I have been granted today the privilege of counting my blessings on the floor of the United States Senate. One of the greatest blessings in my life, and I know for so many people here, has been the blessing of public service. As the scriptures tell us, it is in giving that we receive. Dr. Martin Luther King said it another way. He said, and I quote, "Everyone can be great because everyone can serve," unquote. King taught us in that simple statement that the word great in this context isn't about fame or acclaim or notoriety or riches. Great is about something much more valuable, the opportunity to help others. I will continue to do my part to serve as a citizen and as a Pennsylvanian. And serving in the United States Senate has been an honor of a lifetime. Thank you, and God bless you. I yield the floor.